but also Cam did a show with the other guy, and there was a lot said about Channing, a lot said about you, a lot said about Alicia, things said about me. I know, one, I'm very proud of both of you because y'all have taken the high road a lot. Y'all have been extremely respectful. He's lied a ton publicly. You know, he said a lot of things that aren't true. Said a lot of things that aren't true about me. I just don't really care. But for you, Freddie T, I don't know if there's anything you want to clear up, anything you want to get off of your chest and say, because it seems like we've been trying to get it to go away and it won't.
Right. Just for everybody, whoever the other person is, or if they don't know who the other person is, I think Brandon Marshall might be the biggest coward on the planet, simply because he's on his clout chasing tour. You know, and I also kind of came across something that he said about about Shannon Sharpe, which is crazy, you know. So why at this point in the game you're hopping around podcasts, you know, talking about everybody? It's a bad look, and obviously I've read some of the comments, and a lot of people agree that he's embarrassing himself. But just a lot of lying, a lot of manipulative movements, you know, pretty much how he was with everybody that he's encountered. But my question to everybody, because I can get into so much, look who was always with someone. I think the real question is, where are those people that started with him? You know, me and Channing, Ocho, all the other people that were on the show that he went to recruit after Channing and I left. Everybody disappeared. And if you were right, if you stood for anything, if your integrity was high, then people will still, you know, rock with you. But nobody's there right now. So I can really dig into it, but I think I would just be putting more fuel on his fire, what he wants, you know, considering he's moving around like that. I think what you need to do, boss, is handle your business. Stop fucking around.
I say, and I think, Fred, that was very aggressive and articulate. And I appreciate it. But I would just say the part I heard was a motherfucker acting like he made me. That's the thing I can't stand. How you make me when I made your podcast, or our podcast supposedly, but it really wasn't ours, as we found out. Then go to another one, create another thing that blows up bigger than that even was. That's the thing that got hot about me. Bitch, you ain't make me. Pauline Pope and Randy Crowder made me. I created myself. I do all this. So that's the one thing. And like for instance, there's a lot to get into about the lies. Anytime you want to talk about numbers, anytime you want to talk about contracts and what, show receipts. Don't just say this 25,000 or maybe it was 250 or maybe 1.2 million. Show receipts. If you feel that way, there are some contracts that are done on paper. So if you really want to put numbers out there, we can show receipts. But don't act like you made a motherfucker. That's what pissed me off.
Yeah, Big J TV, like, comment, and subscribe. Best way to help this channel grow is to like. Best way to keep this thing rolling, man. And let's talk about rolling. Because Fred T, Channing Crowder, they just rolled all up on Brandon Marshall, man. They had a pack of Brandon Marshall. They put it in the wood. Is it gas or what, as Lil Durk would say, and smoked that nigga. Let's talk about it, man. For me personally, let me start off by saying this. I did not watch that full podcast of the pivot going off on, you know, Brandon Marshall. No, I didn't watch it. Neither did I watch the episode of, you know, Brandon Marshall on Cam Newton, which was about 2 weeks ago where this whole thing's popped off. Now, for me, what I have watched is how this ended. What I have watched is how the I Am Athlete podcast came from being real fire to non-existent, being nothing. What I have watched is multiple ways that Brandon Marshall has talked about it, multiple ways that Fred and Channing have talked about it, and I came to a conclusion. It's a pretty clear conclusion. Both sides are to blame, but you have to blame Brandon more for this. Why do you blame Brandon more for this? Because as a leader, right? As a leader, you wear the crown and also you get the most punishment. I'm telling you right now, the I Am Athlete podcast was a fire idea. It was a great podcast. It was well made. It was entertaining. It was funny. It was charming. And the main reason is because Brandon Marshall was able to identify funny, interesting characters, interesting talent, and he was able and genius enough to put it all together during the pandemic, which is a huge reason it got big. And what happened was he and his ego tried to be the star instead of letting his other bros shine. See, there's a thing about leading, right? And when you're a leader, you don't have to be the star of the show. See, when you watch a movie, the person who's really leading it is not the actors, it's the director. The director is never in a scene, for the most part. The director is behind the scenes and he or she is leading the production. Really, in a movie, it's the producer, if we're really keeping it real, because the producers are the people who put the money up and they're the one who decides what happens in the movie. But the director is not really the person who puts up the money. The director is the person who gives the direction of the script, who makes the adjustments, has the final say on almost everything. Damn near everything. The producer can override the director because the producer is the one that put the money up. But the director, the chief, the captain is the one that decides how the show goes. And they're usually the one who just make the movie good or bad. It's very rare that you have a good director make a trash movie. Extremely rare. And when you look at a guy like Brandon Marshall, right, he was smart enough to put it together, but part of being successful is staying the course, is staying successful. Brandon Marshall was not able to do the business, the behind-the-scenes work to make I Am Athlete stay. And that's why Channing and Fred T, that's why they left. And once they left, the show was done. See, the thing about Brandon Marshall, throughout his whole career, he's had problems in relationships, meaning he's had issues with mental health. I'm not trying to say this to put him down, but he's always been known as somebody to get angry. He's always been known as somebody to be unstable, right? And unfortunately, that reared its ugly head with the I Am Athlete podcast because he was not able to right the ship, to keep everybody on track and to handle his business. Because really what this is a business issue. It's the money. It usually goes like that with most squads. It comes back to the money and how you can get the money right. And if you're a good businessman, if you're a good leader, you handle that from the very beginning. I believe that's why the Pivot podcast is so successful, because they handled the money from day one. And that's why a lot of businesses fail, because you haven't discussed the money from day one. Of course, you can podcast with your homies. Of course, you can have fun with your friends. But you got to discuss the business from day one in order to achieve a long-term success. That's why the Pivot is so successful, because the money was obviously discussed and handled from day one. And Ryan Clark is a very good leader. Keep in mind, Ryan Clark used to be a captain on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was a captain on multiple teams, so he knows how to lead. He's been proven. Brandon Marshall was one of the best players on his teams, especially the Broncos and Chicago Bears, but he was never a good leader. Never has been. Never got that captain band or stripe. Never been. You know what I mean? And I think that reflects in his handling of the I Am Athlete podcast, because ain't nobody checking for that. Ain't nobody checking for that. And for Brandon to trash his old co-workers, that's a sign of bad leadership as well, because if you trashing on people who used to work with you, how about new people who want to work with you? How about new employees, right? And this is why I give credit to, guys like Joe Budden, even though Joe Budden has a lot of problems. Joe Budden doesn't go out of his way to trash Rory and Maul. He does send little sublims here and there, but for the most part, he leaves it alone, right? You look at Matt Hoffa. Even though Matt Hoffa, him losing his old co-workers, he didn't try to, trash them as much. Nah, maybe once or twice. So Brandon Marshall has gone on multiple podcasts and talked smack about him. He went on multiple shows, and he's already started talking smack about, Unc Shay Shay. I don't think that's cool. I don't respect that. And shout out to, Fred T and Channing for succeeding, because they were really the talent, especially Channing. They were really entertaining. And losing great members of a team is a massive L. And a good leader tries his best to retain great team members. instead of get rid of them or lose them. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below, man. Big J TV, y'all think Brandon has a way of salvaging the I Am Athlete podcast? Y'all rocking with Channing, or you're rocking with Fred T, or you're rocking with Ryan, y'all rocking with Brandon, man? Let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. Check out these videos on the end screen, man. Big J TV. I'm out, brother.